Is Dead Poets by Eto and Futurewave. Eto being the rapper from New York, Futurewave being a producer from Toronto. This is their first collaboration together. It's a very concise 30-minute project and follows a general theme, I would say, of the hardships of the streets, as well as providing some sort of poetic storytelling as, you know, a callback to the title of the album, Dead Poets. You know, we have some kind of poetry based verses that go on in here. So without further ado, I just want to move on, talk about the raps, and then we're going to talk about the beats, and then we'll wrap that up. This being kind of a collaboration between two artists, I feel that that is the best way to cover this. So Eto as a rapper, you know, this is the first project I've heard by him, and he has a very sort of slow, almost subdued way of delivering his lines. So much so that although he's using these complex rhyme patterns and, you know, using a lot of wordplay and storytelling in his verses, sometimes it can go unnoticed because his delivery is so subdued. I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing. It's actually quite cool, because then on further listens, I'm beginning to hear things that I didn't pick up on the first couple of times. Another thing I wanted to mention is it's really cool in this album how these sort of spoken word rambles will turn into raps and then back into spoken word again. It really fits the theme of this Dead Poets. My example song for that is the song Poetry is Dead, where like for the first minute and a half of the song, it feels like Eto is setting us up for a verse. He's kind of just talking street knowledge. He's not necessarily rhyming, but it sounds very nice over this beat. And then as the second half of the song comes in, Eto comes back and he's spitting verses, and it's just very seamlessly transitions. And I really enjoyed that. So Poetry is Dead, that's my example song. Definitely one to check out. The features on this album, I didn't recognize any of the names. I don't know if these are local artists or just smaller time artists that Eto is familiar with. The cool thing about the features is they really seem like they were given a topic to rap about for the album. So they're not just kind of going on about whatever. It's very on theme with the rest of the project, which I really appreciate when that is done. So yeah, let's move on to the beats in this project. And you guys know me, you know that's really what draws me into an album. Futurewave is really proving to be one of the most unique sounds within this sort of underground hip hop scene for beat making. You know, he's making it so that you can differentiate what his beat is just based on the sonics. An example, like if you hear an Alchemist song, you can very likely pick out the drums to be Alchemist drums, at least myself. If you've listened to a lot of underground hip hop, Nicholas Craven beats, you're going to get those drumless loops and kind of soul sample loops. Example, DJ Muggs, you're going to get a very kind of spooky and dark aesthetic. And with Futurewave, I would say that his signature is maximalism. Which is really interesting for me because I often find that I'm drawn to quite the opposite in beats. I really like simplistic or kind of stripped back beats, but this is something that is proving me wrong in my own taste, which I really like. Futurewave layers so many different sounds and makes them sound nice together. Like it's really quite incredible. It gives me the sense that he's pulling samples, not just from one song, but maybe from 3-4 different places, and then putting them together on this canvas, which that can't, you know, that's not easy to do. So I really am impressed by that. My example song for these textures that I'm talking about, and my favorite beat on the record, My Poetry Deep is the song. We've got some great live sounding drums, almost Alchemist drums, no lie, but we've got this wavering vocal sample, and then there's this repeating guitar line that's just coming through. And again, all of these sort of unorthodox pieces being placed together to make this one piece of art. It's really nicely done. It's truly a mastermind sort of thing. So yeah, that's the beats. I think I've said what I have to say there. My closing thoughts, I'd say that these artists are complementing each other's styles honestly perfectly. There's not a beat or a verse that sounds out of place or like it was reaching for something. And honestly, this is an album that, I don't know, I find that it's very unique. I can just put it on. I was listening to it a lot while I was working, just in my headphones, and it puts you in sort of this like soundscape that is dark and gritty, but if you're willing to let yourself be in that soundscape, I feel that there's a lot of artistry to gain out of it. So I'm going to wrap that up here. That was Eto and Futurewave with the album Dead Poets. Guys, please check it out. Okay.